This is Paul Ejime. Is an election monitor and African Affairs Analyst. Thank you so much for joining us, Paul. The Somali Electoral Committee have announced it will be delaying the parliamentary elections again until March 31, in a process that is already more than a year overdue. What does this say about the political infighting that has hindered the process?
So it's nothing new. It's been the Somali. I think you had the WHO DG, who is also, an Ethiopian, talking about forgotten crisis or forgotten war. Somali crisis falls into that. For decades now, there hasn't been any one-to-one or face-to-face election. All they are doing is delegate. But that is, it's been taken, the country has been taken over by warlords. If you have any reference point for a failed state, Somalia is one. So that is the situation. These sanctions, they're just barely scratching the surface of the crisis. Look at what the world is doing, or what the Western world is doing when it comes to Ukraine. That is only 3 weeks old. But Somalia and other crises have been there for decades. And then you haven't seen the type of, action that the world is taking. So one, Somalis have failed themselves, and the world has also failed Somalia. So that is what is there. This will not solve much. I am not a prophet of doom, but going by what is happening with the infighting and then the fact that warlords have divided and taken over and in control of different parts of the country with air suburb insecurity and then droughts, natural disaster. So that is really a country. If you are looking for a failed state, that is one.
Well, Paul, we understand that the United States has imposed travel sanctions on key political figures for these obstructions while expressing disappointment with the latest delay. How do you think this will impact on the whole process?
This is what I'm saying. It is like scratching the surface of the crisis. They've done so. Remember, they're only adding more to the list that they have. What happens to the ones that they did before? So they need to do more. For instance, America stopped, even though it supports Somalia. But remember that it was there that in 1993, American soldiers were killed and dragged on the streets of Mogadishu. It was called the Mogadishu battle. And since then, America is no longer in a situation. They are bidding, taking the kind of support they are giving. They cannot give you troops, and then the type of military assets or weapons they can give are measured. They are tied to some conditionalities. And you are talking about America. What about the AU? Somalia is supposed to be an African country. Why is the AU not doing anything about it? But they can issue statements about what is happening in Ukraine and Russia. But here we are, Somalia and then Ethiopia. They've not been able to do anything. So leading some people to say that they are, a toothless bulldog. So America, very far, but they are there because this Western interest or foreign interest, because of the resources that are there in Somalia. Somalia is rich in uranium, in bauxite, in iron ore, and that is the root of the problem. When you have these resources, that you have competing interests trying to take advantage. But,
Paul,
go ahead.
Well, Paul, sorry to cut you. Whether or not there's a Western interest, we understand that Somalia has not held a one-person, one-vote election in 50 years. Now, how feasible do you think this search will be in terms of finding a new president to take over the role of the presidency in the country?
It is a case of hoping for the best and then, expecting the worst. Because, like I said, the Somali crisis is not a new crisis. Remember that one of their leaders, Saad Barre, was in exile, died in Nigeria. So he's been there more than 50 years. So it's a case of maybe a forgotten conflict. But the Somali themselves will have to do themselves a favor by coming down to solve their problem, coming with the resolution, determination to end this. And then all that the international outsiders can only assist. The responsibility lies squarely on their, well, the leaders have balkanized, they're into factions. So what is happening now, there is very little hope, I'm afraid.
Well, there have been reports of alleged procedural irregularities, while journalists and opposition party members continue to be the target of harassment, arrest, and violence, as we have heard. How will countries like the U.S. promote accountability and support the rapid conclusion of Somalia's electoral process in a credible and transparent manner?
Well, you talked about credibility. There has to be some honesty, and then set hypocrisy aside, or insincerity, or inconsistency. All the signs must be dealt with fairness, with open mind, with flexibility. It's a case of the fight between the two Mohammeds. The president, who was supposed to have the tenure, had run out in February last year. And then the prime minister. And they are there belonging to different factions. And then they have people lining behind them, both locally and then internationally. So beginning with internal, it's a micro and macro issue. Let Somalis themselves come together and decide, make a decision that they have to end this endless war and crisis that has turned their country into ashes. And then those who are supporting them from outside will also come with neutrality and not be seen to be favoring any side.
Thank you so much, Paul Ejime, for joining us on the news.
Thank you for having me.